Donald Trump has now deported multiple U.S. citizen kids with cancer. If that sentence sounds unbelievable, it's because it should be unbelievable. It should not be something that is taking place here. But look at what we have going on. Reports confirmed by the ACLU of Louisiana show that 3 American citizen children were deported in the last week as part of Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. What does it even mean to call it a crackdown? Among them, a 4-year-old child with a rare metastatic cancer deported with no medication, no consultation with doctors, no plan to continue treatment. It doesn't stop there. One of the mothers deported is pregnant, expelled from the United States without any prenatal care arrangements. Another mother given less than a minute to call legal counsel before the call was abruptly cut off. A complete mockery of due process. There is no due process. On the one hand, they say law and order. On the other hand, there's no due process being given to people. The ACLU says that ICE was warned ahead of time about the child with cancer's medical condition. They knew, and they deported the child anyway. These were American citizen children, children who had every legal right to be in the United States and were ripped away from their communities and their doctors and their medical care, I guess because Trump wants to make a political point. What that point is, I don't even know at this point in time. This is not the first time, because last month, Donald Trump's ICE deported a 10-year-old American citizen with cancer out of Texas. 2 separate cases within weeks of each other of U.S. citizen children with cancer being thrown out of the country without medical care. If you want to talk about cruelty, this is cruelty. And this is what Trump meant, I guess, when he said we were finally going to have law and order again in this country. Punishing children with cancer to scare immigrants and doing it proudly and boasting Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and all of them. The judge overseeing one of these cases called it what it is. We mentioned it earlier. It's the deportation of an American citizen with no meaningful process, meaning no due process. Think about that. A sitting president violating the rights of his own citizens.
Humanitarian parole is for people like Daisy.
Surrounded by TV cameras at a desk made for adults, a gravely ill 4-year-old who Donald Trump wants to deport. She's in the crosshairs of a sweeping and indiscriminate immigration policy. The White House has ordered she leave the country immediately. Sophia's doctors in Los Angeles say if she's deported to Mexico, her home country, she may live only a few more days.
These are people coming to us for protection, and instead, we're sending them to die. That's not justice, and it doesn't make us any safer.
Sophia wears a backpack with a feeding tube which keeps her alive. Care only available in the US. But in April this year, they received this notice that their humanitarian parole is being revoked. It's time for you to leave the United States, it reads.
How do you feel knowing that the threat of deportation is looming over you?
So much fear. It is very hard and so much anxiety. My daughter can die. I know it's hard for you to understand, but it is really what will happen if my daughter is not connected to her treatment.
The Department of Homeland Security say the family's case is still being considered. Sophia is a tiny symbol of the human casualties of unbending and ruthless policy.
The Trump administration has deported a 10-year-old with brain cancer. Last year, this 10-year-old was diagnosed with brain cancer, and she has since undergone brain cancer treatments. Ever since she was diagnosed, her parents brought her to this cancer center in Houston. And every time she went through an immigration checkpoint, her parents showed ICE agents documents from the doctors and her attorneys so that they would allow them to go through and get treatments for their daughter. But under the Trump administration, this was not enough. And on her way to get treatment for brain cancer, ICE agents arrested her parents, including the 10-year-old. And brought them to a detention center. We're not talking about a criminal. We're talking about a family with a 10-year-old with brain cancer. Where's the humanity of this administration? This family with no criminal record. All they wanted was to be able to get treatment for their 10-year-old daughter. Under the Biden administration, she had been allowed to cross to the Texas border, bring their child to get treatment. Because of her cancer, her speech is difficult. and she has mobility difficulties on one side of her body. Now that the family is in Mexico, she can no longer receive the treatments that she desperately needs.
Donald Trump's immigration crackdown has resulted in a 10-year-old U.S. citizen girl with brain cancer and her 4 U.S. citizen siblings all deported with their undocumented parents when they were on their way to an emergency medical appointment. Joining us now is NBC News reporter Nicole Acevedo. Nicole, what happened here?
Well, Jose, this happened about a month ago. This family was on their way to the doctor in an emergency with their kid who has been recovering from brain cancer from the past year. They lived in the Rio Grande and they were on their way to Houston, where the girls specialists are based on. And on the way, there's an immigration checkpoint that the family has crossed every time that they have to go to Houston to give care to her kid. And they were prepared every other time with these letters from their doctors, from their lawyers, explaining the situation so they could pass. But this time, Jose, it was different. The letters were not enough. When the CBP officials that were at the checkpoint there, when they asked the parents to show documentation of their status, they didn't have any. And that caused them to arrest them in that moment. But they weren't alone. They were with 5 other of their children in that vehicle, and all of them were detained. And at least 4 of those kids are U.S. citizens. And a lot of people don't know this, Jose, but if you're an undocumented parent that gets picked up by immigration authorities and you have U.S. citizen kids, your options are really limited. If the kid stays in the United States, they actually go into the custody of the government and enter the foster care system, regardless of whether they have family members in the United States or not. The other option is to have the kids come with them to the country where they're being deported to. And this mother in this family faced with this option with a sick child, you know, she tells me when I spoke to her that she felt like she was literally between a rock and a hard place. So you can imagine that this family now, they have been in Mexico after their deportation about a month. The mother tells me that the kids have not been able to go to school. Her kids have not been able to get the healthcare they need, especially this little girl, to make sure that her recovery cancer continues in the right track.
And Nicole.
Hello, Find the Dot family. Welcome back. Today we are looking into a very sensitive story about children facing deportation while undergoing treatment for serious illness like cancer. This is not just about politics, it's about human lives, healthcare, and the future of vulnerable kids. Let's break it down together. I'll be back for more documents.
Breaking news, guys. This right here is really heartbreaking. Listen to this.
The Trump administration just deported a 10-year-old girl with brain cancer who was a U.S. citizen back to Mexico. Her mother and her father are both undocumented, but they have 5 kids here, all who are U.S. citizens. They can't survive here alone in America, so they had to go back with them. This family was on their way to a Houston hospital in order to continue giving care to their child with brain cancer. That's when they happened to go through an ICE immigration checkpoint and they were deported.
So basically, this is the family right here. The mom and dad are undocumented citizens of the United States. However, the mom and dad has 5 children that are documented citizens. So why were they stopped at the border? And the Border Patrol should automatically know if they have the proper paperwork, the proper credentials, that they're fine. I have heard where, like, in Mexico, if like we're able to provide certain type of medical assistance over here in the United States, they have proper medical insurance and everything to pay for it. They would come back and forth over here to the U.S. for their treatments and then fly back home and then fly back, or drive over here and then drive back home. So if they done did this procedure multiple times, because this is not the young lady's first time coming to the United States. So why was it this time they stopped her at the border and deemed her as not a U.S. citizen? That doesn't make sense to me, or maybe I'm missing something here. I'm gonna play just a little bit more.
Those of you who asked why the Dems did not stand at the State of the Union when you guys paraded around a child with brain cancer
I remember
on
that.
stage as a political pawn. This is why, because the whole entire time they knew that the Trump administration doesn't actually give a fuck. Republicans do.
Wow. So you guys heard it, man. Let me know what you guys think of this 10-year-old child, man, getting deported out of the U.S. And she was a U.S. citizen already. That's what's baffling. Now, I didn't read into this much, but I did look at a few articles today and a few clips on the situation. It's really heartbreaking. It's really sad. What do you guys think of this situation, knowing that this 10-year-old girl was a U.S. citizen and she needs those treatments continuously? If she was already coming over here multiple times for her treatments and going back to Mexico, she wasn't doing anything wrong, was she? So why did Trump allow this to happen? Will she be able to consider getting her treatments in the U.S.? Or is it pretty much, no, you can't come back, you're done? Let me know what you guys think.
Close this discussion. This story of children with cancer facing deportation after receiving treatment reminds us of how delicate immigration and healthcare policy truly are. This situation is not just about paperwork, it's about children who are fighting for their lives, parents who are doing their best, and society that are calling to show compassion while still balancing the rules of law. To policymakers, here are some advice for you. Always keep humanity at the center of decision making. Policy must protect the most vulnerable, especially children in medical crisis. Consider framework that allow temporary medical relief for families so children can finish their life-saving treatment without fear of being uprooted. Work closely with healthcare provider, humanitarian group, and immigration service to find solutions for both lawful and compassion. To citizens and community involved, be informed about this issue because public awareness often shapes policy. Show empathy where you can, whether through community support or advocacy, or lending your voice to constructive dialogue. Remember that kindness goes a long way for families who are already under pressure. To my fans, I encourage you to see this not as just an headline, but as a reminder of the kind of world we want to build. One that values both fairness and compassion. Special credits go to the stitches and creator of the video that brought this story to limelight. Now, I would like to hear from you. What do you think leaders should do to protect children who are in the middle of treatment while also keeping immigration system fair? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Share this video with others to raise awareness. Don't forget to like and subscribe.